Check it out, Casper!
Hey everyone, and thanks for tuning in. Casper here, and you may know random crits as the bullshit rockets that accidentally kill you from across the map, or the melee bullshit attack which makes you lose a deathmatch which you definitely should have won. But are they fair and are they balanced? Well, to answer that question, we probably need to understand how they work. For those of you who aren't aware, random crits aren't actually 100% random, and they are in fact influenced by two main factors: the type of weapon you are using, i.e. a melee weapon or a ranged weapon, and also how much damage that you've done in the last 20 seconds. So let's look at both ranged and melee at the same time and see how they're affected by the damage that you've done. Ranged starts with 2%, so as soon as you spawn on the very first time you join the map, there's a 2% chance that the next rocket that you fire, for example, is going to be a random crit. Now melee starts at 15%. So there's a 15% chance that the next time you swing your axe, that's going to be a random crit. Now for ranged, you gain 10% by the time you've done 800 damage in the last 20 seconds. So i.e. that's 1% extra chance to do a random crit for every 80 damage that you deal, giving you a total of a 12% chance. So within the last 20 seconds, if you've done over 800 damage, then there's a 12% chance that any rocket that you fire is going to be a random crit. Melee, on the other hand, there's a 45% chance per 800 damage, which roughly works out as 1% per 18 damage that you deal, which gives you a total chance of 60% to do a random crit with a melee. So that means if you've done 800 damage or more in the last 20 seconds, every time you swing your melee, there is a more than a half chance that that's going to be a random critical hit. So have you ever wondered why you're playing Spy and you seem to get critted by an engineer's wrench pretty much every time? Well, not only is there approximately a 1 in 6 chance that he's going to crit you anyway, but if he's done between 0 and 800 damage in the last 20 seconds with his sentry and or his shotgun combined, which is probably happening a lot of the time if you're an engineer, then there's a more than a 50% chance that he's going to crit you and deal 195 damage, which is plenty enough to kill a non-dead ringing spy in any situation. Now with those numbers looked at, it also means that a soldier or a demo man doing a lot of spam damage within the last 20 seconds probably has a pretty good chance roughly every 8th or 9th shot that he fires is going to be a critical hit. And why are crits a big deal? Well, there's two main properties here of your standard critical hits. They deal 3 times as much damage as a normal hit, so if a melee hit does 65 damage, a critical melee hit does 195 damage, which is a lot. And 2, perhaps even less sensical, at least to me, there is no damage fall off for critical hits. So have you ever been killed by a minigun across the map with crits? That's because, under normal circumstances, the further a minigun bullet travels, the less damage that it does. However, if there's a critical hit with your minigun, there's no distance damage fall off, and each of those minigun bullets is hitting you as if you were standing right next to the heavy. It is quickly also worth us mentioning critical hit's little brother, mini crits. So without the effect of any weapon either yourself or your opponent are carrying, there is actually no way for random mini crits to happen, i.e. you have to be holding a weapon which causes you to receive mini crits or be under the effects of something like Jarate for a mini crit to happen. It is interesting though to say here that mini crits actually do 35% extra damage than the normal weapon damage. So an uncharged sniper body shot is 50 damage, add 35% to that, and a sniper body shot is doing about 68 damage. Normal crits, on the other hand, do 3 times as much damage, which, referring to it the same way as we did to mini crits, that's 200% extra. So a sniper body shot goes from 50 to 150 damage. So from 35% extra up to 200% extra for full crits, you can see that full crits seem to be disproportionately better than something like a mini crit. So that brings us on to, are random crits fair and balanced? Is it balanced that at any given time somebody can hit you with 300% damage? That's a hell of a lot, especially considering that the mini counterpart would only do 135% damage, expressed in the same way. In my opinion, no, that's not fair and balanced. The idea of crits existing are to give someone a chance to beat another person in a fight when they aren't actually better than that person. I imagine this is to help new players or less experienced players feel more encouraged in the game. This idea then is balanced out by the fact that players who are probably dealing more damage in the last 20 seconds, i.e. the better players, they've got a higher chance of getting these random crits, meaning even though they'll get killed by random crits a lot, in theory they will kill more with random crits. For me, however, anything which can turn a 3-hit attack of a melee weapon, which would kill a class such as a Pyro, into a one-shot kill attack is a little bit too overpowered. I would rather see full crits get balanced somewhere in between their current state and somewhere where the mini crits are. So let's just say a random crit, rather than doing 200% extra, does 75% extra maybe. That would turn a 65 damage shot into more like a 114 damage shot. So if you hit a Pyro with 1 random crit and a normal shot, you would kill them in 2, which is slightly more balanced than killing them in 1. And if you got 2 random crits with a melee against a heavy, in the current circumstances, you're going to kill them in 2 shots, which is pretty ridiculous considering this is the game's tank. Depending on how many random crits you got when hitting a heavy with my proposal, you'd still take 3 or 4 hits to take them out, which sounds a little bit more fair when we're talking about the strongest class in the game, in terms of health. So we did touch on the idea that random crits exist in order for new players to feel powerful. I suppose on that basis, that's fair enough. New players are still joining this game, and there's still players who aren't very good at this game, especially as it's free to play. So it's reasonable to assume that a noob with 2 hours in the game, coming up against a highly experienced player with 2,000 hours in the game, is gonna get crushed. But if they get those 1 or 2 opportunities to wreck him with random crits, then it might give them the motivation to carry on playing, and give them the enjoyment to want to spend more time in the game. So that's why the random crits are in the game, at least as far as I can work out. What I would personally love to see is Valve servers with random crits turned off, or at the very least a vote system in Valve servers where you can vote to disable or enable random crits for the remainder of the map. This would also probably help to provide data to Valve concerning on just what % of the player base wants to keep random crits and what % wants to get rid of them. Whilst I would love to see that 200% extra damage turned into a 75% extra damage, I believe Valve getting rid of crits altogether is a much more likely thing than making such a fundamental change as changing the mechanics behind them. Because you've got to remember, not all crits are random, and if we gave the crits creek a massive nerf, then that would change a lot of things. So, are they fair? That's a tough one. Everyone gets a chance to get them, and the more skilled players have a greater chance to get them. So in that respect, it's fair, but the key thing here is that you don't get to decide when RNGesus gives you a random crit. So to say that they're totally fair is a little bit difficult. They are random, after all. Are they balanced? In my opinion, no. But that's, as I said, my opinion. I would also argue that no matter what you do, that nothing should increase the chance of you randomly scoring a 300% damage hit on an enemy be over 60% with a melee weapon or otherwise. I would love to see the max melee crit chance reduced, maybe 25%? According to the Team Fortress 2 wiki, this percent is so high in order to encourage people to use melee. But the way I see it, if you're doing 65 damage to them anyway, most classes are going to be dead in 2 or 3 hits. Plus, if you're in a situation where you were trying to melee someone, then the chances are that they're already weakened, and you're trying to finish them off. So that logic just doesn't sit right with me. On top of this, we've also got weapons in the game whose downside is does not get a random crit, which is meant to balance this item. So if random crits don't exist, just like they don't in competitive modes, then are those weapons technically upgrades? Well, at a moment, a lot of them are pretty much no-brainer upgrades when you're not getting random crits in the server no matter what you do. However, due to the Team Fortress 2 dev team's recent focus on competitive matchmaking, I'm really expecting a lot of those weapons to get changed, so this part of the discussion becomes totally null and void. So in conclusion, are random crits fair? Sort of yes, sort of no, I guess. Are they balanced? Personally, I would say no way. Are they unnecessary, and should there be easier ways to play without them? Yes, absolutely. Anyway guys, that's my 2 cents, and I'm sure there will be plenty of you who want to share your own thoughts in the comments section, and I do honestly encourage you to do so. Anyway guys, here's my previous videos and my social links, and even the subscribe button if you are new to this channel. Welcome. And to everyone, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.
If that ain't fair, I don't